Cool.
We're good. We're live.
Cool. All right. So just to start out the conversation, so it wants me to ask what you guys think sexual harassment is based upon the reading that we have.
I would say unwanted signals or advances that may make somebody feel uncomfortable in the workplace, of a physical or emotional nature.
Cool. Anyone else?
That's a great description. I agree.
But what about people that
Sorry.
so like
Sorry, my phone is ringing.
That's okay.
Unsolicited, comments and touching, of course. So.
But I don't even think it's always intentional. You know?
That's true. But unwanted is what
Like
makes it.
Right, but I had mentioned last week. I told you that story about the one business where the employees left the inappropriate magazines laying out all over.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody complained about it. And I thought it was interesting that it kind of mentioned that a little bit in this reading. And so, it may not be intentional, but if somebody takes offense towards it, then I think then it's definitely sexual harassment. If you have a whole, and this is going to be very sexist, but if you have a garage, an auto garage, and you have, their pinup calendars up, and everybody is cool with that at work, then I don't think that that's sexual harassment. But then if you get a woman in there who complains about it, then that's sexual harassment.
There was something I was going to bring up, but I think it's in the quiz, so I don't know if I should bring it up because I can't find it in the writing, so I don't know if I should bring it up, but maybe I'll just kind of say something towards it. So if someone was doing something that others would consider sexual harassment, but for you it was like, oh, well, whatever, it's not a big deal for me, would that still be constituted as sexual harassment or not?
As far as what the reading that we did, no. The answer would be no, because it has to be unwelcomed or offensive to the person, I suppose, right? I mean, I'm trying to find the actual sentence in the description here, but that was my understanding, was if the person isn't bothered by it, then it's not considered sexual harassment, I guess.
Right.
What do you guys think if, let's say there was a couple in the workplace that were engaging in public displays of affection and it was making other people uncomfortable, could they make a sexual harassment claim?
I don't think so, because it's not directed at them. They could definitely make a claim that that's inappropriate for the workplace, but I don't think that would be sexual harassment.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I agree that it should be considered like tactless, or inappropriate.
Yeah.
But for them to go as far as saying that they're harassed, then no. I mean, they could take it to the, managers and call it inappropriate. But
well, I now that I think about it, and it would be very petty. But if that couple knew that it bothered somebody, and they intentionally, oh look, there's so and so, let's start making out.
Then yes.
Then yes,
that's intentional harassment.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it would have to be intentional.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Where if a couple is engaging in a little PDA, out in the open, and then somebody walks around the corner and it offends them, that I don't think would be intentional.
Yeah, I agree.
Gotcha.
So going on with the story that we read, so I have a silly question for you guys. How do you pronounce that guy's last name? Would you say DeCosta or DeCosta?
DeCosti?
I don't know, because It seems Hispanic to me.
I would
So
say
I
DeCoste.
okay, I just don't want to sound like a retard when I'm saying you guys are looking at me.
DeCoste or DeCoste. Fine.
I'm just gonna say DeCoste,
I'm
so
good with that.
everyone knows who I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay, so going to that story, do you guys think that her situation would constitute sexual harassment?
Yes.
Yes.
I believe so.
Okay, do you think it would be quid pro quo or quid pro? Okay, quid pro quo or hostile work environment? Gosh, that was hard to say.
Hostile work environment.
All right,
Off
why do you think it
topic,
would be
A little
hostile
off
work
topic, but
environment?
I actually
Go ahead.
I learned how to say quid pro quo from watching Silence of the Lambs because Hannibal says that to. Anyway, sorry. Continue.
Says it
That's
to
how I know how to
Clarice.
say it. Yeah, it says it to Clarice. Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's quid pro quo because she was worried about her job, the job. He said in there that don't scream, I'll just deny it. I think
Yes.
that's more than just a hostile work environment. I know it didn't, it didn't literally say if you're going to lose your job if you tell somebody, but the
I see where you're going with it.
the implication was there.
Yeah, he's alluding to the fact that I'll deny it, so you're gonna risk everything, basically,
Right.
by saying that. But I think because there wasn't a direct threat, he's just saying all he's saying is I'll deny it. But he's not saying you can't get a supervisor position or you're gonna be fired if you don't sleep with me. You know what I mean? I think it has to be pretty cut and dry to be quid pro quo. But what do you guys think?
So looking at the definitions on page 2, so it said quid pro quo harassment, quid pro quo harassment involves a proposed exchange of a job benefits for sexual favors. So like example, you just sleep with me or you're fired. But then the hostile work environment says unlike quid pro quo, harassment, one isolated incident is not typically enough to back a claim of hostile work environment harassment. Hostile work environment harassment involves behavior that has the purpose or effect of unreasonably interfering with the individual's work performance or creating an intimidating, hostile, or offensive work environment. So I don't know, because as you mentioned, Leslie, he didn't say do this or you're going to lose your job, but you can tell it kind of interfered with the work because she mentioned transferring just because it was difficult for her to deal with.
Yeah.
So based on that, then it would be a hostile work environment because it was interfering with her ability to perform her job.
Yeah, she's clearly distraught, and it's ongoing. It's like an uncomfortable environment. I think it's a hostile work environment versus just one isolated incident where he's making a direct threat. I don't know.
Do you guys think that DeCoste got accurate advice when he called the council's office?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Because this was one thing that when I went through that HR training earlier this year, that was one thing they said in there, that if you have knowledge of it, then you need to tell because of the legal implications for not giving that knowledge to the HR department or somebody who can deal with it, the legal department or whoever.
I agree. Thank you. Did I cut someone off? Sorry. All right, so... Oh, I thought I heard someone else, sorry. How would you guys evaluate Jack DeCosta's options at this point? What do you think he should do?
Well, he said in there that he wasn't going to do anything without talking to Julia first. That he needs to report it. He needs to, come clean about what he knows Um,
So
all
then,
right. He's
would
just
you
going to feel
say that
guilty if he
he shouldn't
doesn't.
do anything, or he should report it?
No, he needs to report it.
I think he should report it and tell her he is going to report it, because this is what he should do. Because again, at the beginning of our conversation just now, we all agreed that sexual harassment is unsolicited or unwelcomed, wanted advancements or comments or whatever. If she's fine with it, and he can have this conversation with her and be like, look, I heard you were distraught. I didn't want to overhear that, but I did. If you're fine with this, but clearly you're not, I'll let it rest or whatever. But you have to understand that, this is a real situation that needs to be reported. I don't know. I mean, I think that, and then she has the option at that point. I mean, obviously she's distraught about it, and it's upsetting her work, her performance and stuff. So he's basically saying he's gonna report it because he knows it's not right.
What do you think, Matt?
Well, I definitely think she should report it. I mean, that was the question, right? I'm sorry.
Do you think he should report it?
Oh, he should report it?
Yeah, do you think he should report it, or do you think he should just do nothing and just kind of let it,
Well, it says in the reading that his basic philosophy was to tackle problems head on and not duck them. That's kind of a direct quote here. Yeah, I think he should.
Okay, so the fact that you guys all chose that same option, so are you willing to get Julia Martinez fired? If you make that choice, are you willing to get her fired? Because it could happen.
She won't get, well, if she gets fired, it's wrongful, so then she can, that court case can play out and she can win in the end, but she might get fired, but that's wrongful termination, so that's not his problem. That's not DeCoste's problem. So my answer is yes, I'd be willing to get her fired. I'm not trying to laugh about
Very
it.
direct. Any other thoughts?
So I think that he does need to talk with her some more about it before he goes running to legal or whoever, because he has information that she does not. And the information that he has is that because of the merger with the other company, there were going to be a lot of jobs that were going to be eliminated anyway. And so she needs to know that, regardless, she may be out of a job. She's most likely not going to get a transfer. And so, she's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. And the easy, well, it's not going to be easy, but the best course for her is to take her complaints to the appropriate people, and then and take it from there. That there's a high probability she'd lose her job anyway.
And just to touch on what you said, Melanie, is she might opt to quit her job instead of coming clean because she doesn't want to upset her husband. And so that's a valid point that you make, that if he presents this information to her, like, look, there's going to be layoffs and this is whatever, she has a choice to make at that point. So I think he does need to report it, but he does need to talk to her first before reporting it.
Well, do you think that, there's that once a victim, always a victim? So say she quits and she doesn't report it and moves on to something else. What's the likelihood that she's going to, be put in a situation similar?
Or that this other gentleman, or that the boss is going to do it to somebody else, because he's obviously a creep,
So somebody's got to stand up and put an end to it. Correct.
Does anybody else notice that nobody says the boss's name, so they could be talking about two different people. Did
Yes.
anybody feel that way at all? Because
Yes.
it crossed my mind, like, he motioned one direction, but he didn't want to say the name, and he also overheard her say my boss, but you don't know. I mean, I have several bosses at my job. You know, I've got my direct superior, and then I've got the CEO of the company I work for. I mean, so I feel uncomfortable with the information given that I don't even know if he can report based on what he's overheard. I mean, he can report that he knows that something's occurring in the office, but he can't name specific names at this point. Or did you guys feel that way? I felt that way.
Right.
Yeah, I got that
See,
kind of vibe from it.
I say,
No,
so
it
yeah.
just said, it said that she was one of French's secretaries, but then when she was on the phone with her sister,
Mm-hmm.
she just said, my boss. She did not name the boss.
Oh, see, because that could be but really vague too. Just
Yes.
like Leslie was
Yeah.
saying.
And then didn't at one point he mentioned, when he said, I overheard you talking, he kind of motioned a certain direction towards French's office, I guess, right?
Yeah. I
But
think it's
he
something
didn't
like that.
actually say French's
The name.
name or whatever. So I don't feel good about this case. Him just like without knowing
The facts.
absolutely that it was him. Yeah.
But it also made DeCoste assume that it was French, you know, because, I mean, I don't know, I guess that's what I would assume if somebody said their boss, that it would be the immediate supervisor. But you're right, Leslie, it could be somebody down the line. But DeCoste assumed that it was her direct supervisor, which would be French.
Yeah, well,
So,
I think he
and-
needs to have a conversation with her to at least get that much straight before they proceed anywhere. Like, you know what I'm saying?
But she may not even name somebody because she doesn't, you know, she's so worried about losing her job, she may not be willing to name.
Well, and that's fine. If she doesn't want to reveal the information, that's fine. But then when he goes to report it to the proper entity, he needs to say, look, something's occurring in the office, but I don't have the information to tell you exactly who the perpetrator is. You know what I mean? I just know that there's a victim and she's distraught. But I don't think you can jump to conclusions without actually knowing which boss she's talking about. So, maybe I'm misconstruing it all, or you know, maybe it really is that guy. But I just, I would just rather know for sure.
We lost Matt.
Oh, we lost Matt. Okay.
Now he can join back in.
Okay. So Leslie, you mentioned that you thought it was wrongful for her to get fired. But so the question he wants me to ask is, what proof does she actually have of the harassment?
Wow.
You know, because in the story it kind of mentioned that it was a he said she said kind of thing. So.
Well, and that's how most of the cases are he said she said, unless somebody sees it happening. That's what it boils down to. And that's why, you know, sometimes it's so hard to prosecute because of it. And that's why they bring in arbitrators to, you know, try and get down to the bottom of what's going on.
And you're right. The only evidence she has is the fact that DeCoste overheard and can testify as a witness of what he heard. And that's the only evidence. You know, since that's what's going to be reported, that's what's going to be documented. And when they go to trial, that's all there is that she was overheard saying these things, and DeCoste can testify to that, and that's it. I mean, nothing else was seen as far as I know.
Well, and then that's hearsay. You know, if he's overhearing it, it's hearsay. It's not, I don't know that you can use it as evidence on her behalf.
Well, and you still don't have a name, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Back in that boat again.
And maybe, I mean, and there are some nasty people out there. Maybe she's trying to set her boss up. You know, you throw accusations out, and you know, what if they are unfounded? Then what?
What
Yeah.
if you could get proof? What kind of proof would be good enough? Like, would you need to get it on tape or on video or?
I think any of that would work nowadays.
Yeah.
Everyone has a
Yeah,
cell
set your
phone.
phone to record next time she's alone with him in the office. Then he makes an appropriate comment, or then she has it on audio. I mean, I don't know, but she would have to take the initiative to collect the evidence.
I wonder if something like that would hold up in court if it was just audio.
I don't know.
I
Well-
guess depends on what was said or what took place in the room. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, did any of you guys do the employee vignette?
Yeah, I read
That
that.
we weren't supposed to do, but
Yeah, that I had already turned in the quiz for this week after he.
so did I. And then
Before
he said
he
we didn't.
emailed it. Yeah. So
Wait.
they had.
Why did he? Go ahead.
So they had the one case in there, the age discrimination case, where the burden of the proof was on the gal who thought that she was fired because of her age. So
Yeah.
is the burden of the proof going to be on Julia to prove that, there was sexual harassment taking place?
I think it could be on both, because because he overheard it. So I mean, maybe he could keep an eye out for something, and then she could also do, something to show some sort of evidence.
Well, and then what do you guys think about this, though? Okay, so he clearly doesn't want to be involved. He wishes he hadn't overheard anything. So he goes to the proper authorities and reports it. But at this point, is he obligated to watch out for the next issue or keep an eye on this Julia girl? I mean, I think he could wipe his hands clean of it and go about his business because he reported what he saw. And if he saw something further, then yes. But is it really his responsibility to keep an eye out for?
No.
It's true.
And even if he doesn't report it, which, I mean, he has to, but it's not his responsibility to watch out for her regardless. So
That is true.
once he reports it, it's on the employer. And, the employer is going to want to resolve it quickly because, they don't want to be held liable for it.
Yeah.
It said in there that in most cases that it's the employer who gets sued. Yes, the perpetrator can be sued, and then the manager above him can be sued, but the majority of the time it's back on the lawyer. Or, I mean, not on the lawyer, on the employer.
So, go ahead. Oh, sorry, it was me. It was overhearing me. So now that we've discussed this, so if I want you guys to imagine yourselves in different type of positions. So if you guys were either the potential victim of a harassment, the accused harasser, a passerby, or legal counsel, what would you do in those situations? Or I can assign you all different tasks.
So you want a different answer for each one?
Yeah. So okay, well, I guess we'll start with the first one. So what would you guys do if you guys were the potential victim of harassment?
I would report it. I don't, I have to work, and I don't need my work life to be miserable. I would definitely report it, and it would be very uncomfortable, and I don't know. I'd be nervous about saying something, but I need my job more than I need to be bothered at work.
Yeah, I would go straight to HR and report it as well.
Matt, do you have a different answer?
If I were the victim of
harassment?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a different viewpoint coming from a male, because of the stigmas out there.
Yeah, like some say it's not even possible, right?
Anything's possible these days.
Yeah. Well, I was actually, this is off topic, but years and years ago, I was watching Law & Order SVU, and this guy had come in claiming that these 3 women had attacked him. And this guy was very like muscular built man, and these women were like dainty. And so no one believed him, but it actually, in the end, it was true. These 3 women had attacked him. So, anyways, so it does happen.
I love me some SVU, that's for sure. Boy, okay, so I haven't been the victim of full-on like sexual harassment, but I've been in the unfortunate receiver of come-ons in the workplace, and they knew I was married too, and in those situations, I just like I made it a matter between the 2 of us first, and so I would pull them aside and say, "This is really inappropriate," like. It's appreciated, but I'm like not interested. I'm happily married and this and that, and then it stopped. But if it had ceased, then I would probably escalate it. But I might have a hard time getting someone to believe me, though. You know what I mean? So,
I actually like the fact that you brought that up first. You talk to the person and be like, just I don't appreciate that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
Go
maybe
ahead.
they didn't know you were married. You could just be like, okay, look, I'm married. Like, I'm not into, or you're not married and you're just not interested. Maybe they don't realize that. But once there's no mix-up and it continues, at that point it's unwanted.
Yeah.
All right. What if you
I
were
didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry.
No,
I did it
no,
again.
you're fine.
Okay.
I'm one of those people that if you breathe, that's like my cue to jump in. So I'm sorry if I do that to any of you.
No, that's all right.
All right. So what if you guys were the accused harasser? It doesn't say whether or not you did it. It just says accused harasser. So what would you do?
Oh boy.
Try and prove my innocence.
How could you prove it though? It's like your
I
word
would-
against theirs.
Well, but if it's a he said, she said, it's hard to go back and prove that. But I would make sure that I was never in a situation where I was alone with that person again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, never be behind closed doors with somebody. Make everything,
Open.
an open. There's always a 3rd person in the room. That kind of thing.
Yeah, I would also if somebody is accusing me and I didn't do anything, I might consider it maybe this isn't the first time that this person has accused somebody, so I might try and find anybody else who might have been accused.
That's
and
a good
build
idea.
Yeah, build a case from that. Is that the question? Is if I was accused and didn't do it?
It doesn't say whether or not you did it. It
Okay.
just says accused
If you were
harasser.
accused and you did do it, then what would
Okay,
you
what would I do then?
I would still try and deny it. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I would be making an appointment with my bishop. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, if you're shady enough to do it, you're probably shady enough to lie about it and protect your reputation.
Just remember, you're innocent until proven guilty.
Yep.
That is
You know,
true.
it's I forget who said it, but you just talked about not putting yourself in a bad situation. In my husband's profession, he does a lot of female exams, or or he gives people injections in the rear, and it can cause a lot of problems. And there was one lady in particular who she just dropped her pants right then and there. Was like, okay, give me the shot, and he made it very clear that that's not okay. But a situation like that definitely get, misconstrued into something that would maybe, be an advance on his part or her part. So I agree with that, not put yourself in a bad situation.
I told you before that my dad is a retired PA, and I used to work in his clinic with him when I was younger. And when he would do exams of that nature, he always had a female staff member in the room with him. And so even like sports physicals where, the clothes were on, but he still had to, palpate the abdomen or whatever, there was always a female employee in the room with him, so that there was no chance of anyone saying that, something was inappropriate.
That's smart. You guys, just real quick, I was a massage therapist for 13 years, and it's myself and the client in the room. There's nobody else in the room. I mean, that's just how it goes. So, I could tell you stories, but people just behave how they want to behave. They don't. They think the rules are above them, I guess. I don't know, but fortunately,
well, there's a.
Yeah, fortunately, I didn't have anything too major like occur. But yeah.
Well, I was listening. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and there's one that I listened to, and it sounds more malicious than it actually is. It's actually very interesting, very eye-opening. It's called Death, Sex, and Money, and it's a podcast where people tell stories about either how death has touched their lives, sex in a very respectful way too. It's not like gratuitous or anything, or money. And there was an episode where they focused on like sex workers. And they were the person was interviewing a woman that said she was a sex worker, and they like changed her voice and her name so you couldn't really identify her. And she said that what got her started was she was a massage therapist, and people started wanting more. You know what I mean? And then she just kind of got into it. It was interesting. Well, in an audit. Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So, Leslie, when you were working as a massage therapist, you could have, if there was anything untoward, you could have, accused someone of sexual harassment or whatever, because it did say in the reading that where is it?
It could be non-employees too.
Yes, on the bottom of page 3, it could be a non-employee. So that'd be a customer.
Yeah, and what would happen in those scenarios was that we had full discretion or discernment, I guess, to go ahead and end the massage if we ever felt uncomfortable, or to let the client know that their behavior is inappropriate. This is, the massage is coming to an end, and you're, welcome to leave, because they never wanted us to be in a situation where we felt unsafe or threatened. And so, like I said, I was fortunate to work at very high-end hotels and resorts, so we didn't get a lot of the riffraff or like creepy people.
Oh yeah.
But we did get some on occasion, and that's exactly what we would do, is just say, I don't feel comfortable working on you. Please leave. So, and
did
like
you get
said,
tips?
I only had to do that twice. Yeah. Yeah.
They would tip you and stuff.
Yeah, they would give us gratuities and stuff.
Okay.
But no propositions. I never had any like propositions really. Just had like a guy reach out to try to touch my belly button, and I'm like, whoa, like that's not appropriate,
You're like, leave now.
But people, you get in a room with another person of the opposite sex or same sex for some therapists, I don't know, but what I'm saying is, they're undressed to get a massage, and suddenly they think like rules don't apply to them, and it's like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
Yeah, so it is like you guys were mentioning with the doctor's office, and there's all kinds of things that can go on when the comfort level or the, clothing level is being reduced, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, so what if you guys were a bystander? What would you guys do? So I don't know if you just see it or overhear it, but if you were just a bystander, what would you do?
It's got to be reported, and you gotta have that. I don't know, like stupid people. Like, why would they do it in front of somebody else? They're gonna get caught.
Yeah.
People are so stupid. But
what if you misread it though?
Well, but you can say, this is what I saw, and it's up to the legal department or HR to investigate at that point. Maybe you did misinterpret it, but it's got to be looked into.
Yeah.
That's
Or
a good
if
point.
you weren't sure, about like, or you saw something, but you weren't sure if you misinterpreted it, you could act, or you could ask the victim, like, are you okay? Did I overhear this right or see this correctly?
Uh-huh.
And just consult with them before you report it, because maybe you did in fact misunderstand. Maybe they were flirting and you, or whatever, maybe they have a history that you don't know about or whatever. So
All right. What if you were the legal counsel? What would you do?
Well, the first step is to get the stories from all parties involved. And then you have to investigate and, report it to the EOCC or whatever that acronym was for the equal.
Yeah,
What
equal
was it?
opportunity employer or something.
Something.
Isn't that what it is?
Yeah.
Equal? I don't know.
The EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Committee. Is
That's
that something? Yeah. And it did say in the reading that a lot of times, where was that? That sometimes just the warning is enough to stop the action. Does anybody remember reading that?
That sounds familiar.
sounds
It does
familiar.
sound familiar. I'm trying to think of where.
Well, and that makes sense too, because some people may not know that their comments are inappropriate, and if they were warned, they might be like, "Whoa, I didn't mean it like that," or I don't want to cross the line again." And so, before you can be reprimanded, you have to be warned. I think, unless it's so severe, like, in this case, the boss was like putting his hand in her shirt. I mean, that's obviously
So it does say
really
in here
crossing the line.
on page 4 that once notified of a sexual harassment allegation, this is under corrective action, an employer has a duty to investigate and to take prompt and effective action. An employer need not terminate a confirmed harasser, but it is obligated to remedy the situation fully without adversely affecting the terms or conditions of the complainant's employment. So, they can, and I thought it was interesting too that, like, the second paragraph of corrective action, it said that in Florida, the Fifth Circuit took the employer's business needs into account in ruling that the employer was not liable when it ordered the complainant to spend a day and a half completing a business trip with her alleged harasser, with the stipulation that she need not have to work with him again. So I thought that was really interesting, that even though work forced, the victim to go on this business trip, that it was okay because they promised after that they would never have to work with that person again.
I don't know if I could do that.
I know, right?
Anyone else have
Yeah,
anything else to
I
add?
remember
Okay.
reading that, and that was kind of bizarre sounding, didn't you think? That if she went on the trip, did I understand that correctly? If she went on the trip, she'd
Yeah.
never have to work with him again, just finish
Yes.
out the trip? That sounds so wrong.
I'd be like, I have a shovel, and I doubt
Just deal
anyone
with
would
it
miss
this
you.
much
Just
longer,
kidding.
and then I don't know, I just...
I know, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry, Leslie. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, okay. No. I'm done.
Does anyone else have anything else to add?
Nothing that hasn't been said already.
So do you guys want to know what happened with the Lone
Yeah.
Star case?
I
Yeah.
figured you would have the answer.
I'm dying to know.
So, I knew it. So what happened was when Jack DeCoste called, he forgot that there was such thing as a caller ID. So the lawyer used that information, and she to figure out who that people were who he was talking about, and they contacted the Lone Stars Equal Opportunity, or however you said it, Melanie, the EEO, and they launched a formal investigation, and they tried to get Miss Martinez to cooperate. And it said, let's see. French. So the guy that she said or the guy that they accused, he denied all charges because they didn't have any evidence to back it up. And then when Julie Martinez's husband found out, he actually beat her, and she was forced to quit. And then the guy, it says the guy French, he just was, it said the investigator just bruised his reputation, but he still was able to work. But he blamed the corporation, and he blamed DeCoste for what happened. And so after 3 months, DeCoste actually left the company.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So a question
Well,
wants me to
that
ask you
wasn't
guys.
what we expected.
No, that's what I thought. That's, yeah. But yeah, I mean, we
That's
kind of
like
did
the
talk
worst
about it
case
in
scenario.
our discussion.
It's like,
Well, and the thing is, when it said he would take manners and that Julia's husband would take manners in his own hands, I didn't think he would attack his wife. It's like, come on,
Right.
she's already suffering. You're going to make it worse for her?
I thought he'd attack French.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But
yeah.
so what do you guys think Lone Star's sexual harassment policy was?
No idea. I mean, how would we know?
It doesn't sound like they kept it confidential because, I don't know. I mean, obviously they were prompt about investigating it, but I think that I don't know if they went about it the wrong way. I don't know. Using caller ID to find out who it was makes you never want to call again.
And how did French assume that DeCoste was the guy?
Right.
Well,
So someone divulged something at some point, right?
Well, as I say, the only thing in the story, they ran into the guy at work, and French said, "Hi, big guy, take a load off, sit down." DeCoste said, "No, never mind. I've got a lot on my mind." But yeah, and the thing it says, French survived the investigation with only a bruised reputation. He blamed everything on DeCoste for calling corporate counsel.
See, how did he know that he called corporate counsel? We need to know that piece of information.
Right.
Kind of.
Because that questions the confidentiality policy of the business.
Yeah, and how is that supposed to encourage any of us to want to report something to the proper, the equal opportunity or whatever, when that story just kind of kills it for everybody to want to even play by the rules? You know what I'm saying? That's like the worst case scenario story.
But it shows you how far-reaching sexual harassment can be. That all the different consequences that can happen. It's not just affecting the victim and the accused. It goes much further.
Yeah.
So if
I'm sorry if I'm being a little quieter. I'm just taking it all in.
Yeah, you're watching the presidential debate.
Oh no, I swear I'm not.
Are you?
I promise I'm not.
All right.
That's a good idea, though.
Such a stimulating conversation, huh? All right. What policies, procedures, or training might have improved the situation Jack found himself in?
Well, definitely confidentiality needs to be improved. And there needs to be training all through the company. People need to understand what constitutes sexual harassment. And there needs to be a very firm, like zero tolerance. This happens, and, when it happens in a school situation, you hear a lot about a teacher getting involved with students. They are immediately put on leave.
Yeah.
While the case is being investigated. So, that seems like a good plan. Put them on leave. It can be paid leave, but put them on leave. Get them away from the situation while it can be investigated. I don't know.
Yeah, that's really the best way I can think to deal with it. Maybe set clear expectations from the beginning, if that is the case. Provide a regular, maybe quarterly or semi-annual recertification on what the standards are for sexual harassment. Um, because it seems like society, there's always a shift going on, and we need to be up to date, with that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
There's always laws that change.
Yeah,
So by holding an annual recertification, annual training, then you're gonna get all those laws in there.
yeah. I mean, this isn't along the lines of sexual harassment, but I work for Verizon, and confidentiality is like the number one concern. And every quarter, I have to go through a training that teaches me all the same stuff, usually about confidentiality. If somebody comes in and wants to look up an account, I have to see photo ID, and all this kind of stuff, and translate that idea to sexual harassment, where maybe quarterly is too often, but you know just a review, just a sign off saying, okay, this is how it is, and then I don't know. I think that'd be a good idea.
Any other final thoughts?
I agree with their input. I don't know what else I would add to policies. Just a regular meeting about the policies and strongly enforcing them.
And the policy itself has to be looked at. Training's good, but you have to look at your policies. And like Matt said, that laws change, and so you need to make sure your policy accurately reflects what the current. I hate to say current trends, but I mean that's what it boils
Yeah.
down to.
Well,
Yeah, kind of what pops into my mind is the whole testing center skinny jeans thing.
What's a testing center skinny jeans thing?
So this was a long time ago, and it got blown out way out of proportion. But in the testing center in BYU, Idaho, a girl was wearing skinny jeans, and one of the testing center people, because when you go, if any of you haven't been to the testing center, you just kind of wait in a long line, and if one of your classes has a test, they don't do them in class normally. You go to the testing center, and so the instructor will have all of his tests waiting there at the testing center. You go in, they check, make sure you're clean shaven, which I would probably not pass right now, but then they check, make sure like you're following the honor code essentially. And so one guy decided that this one girl's skinny jeans were too tight and she wasn't following the honor code, and turned her away from the testing center.
Oh,
And then I think it was made right. I think like one of the other guys was like, "Oh, come on, she's whatever." And so, but then it just got blown out of like proportion. I don't know why it reminded me of that, but
I never heard that
Well,
before.
because like
yeah, it was
some
about 2 years
people,
ago.
some people
Go ahead,
start
Leslie.
getting overly politically correct, and they start calling things bullying that aren't bullying, and
Oh,
they start calling things sexual harassment that aren't actual sexual harassment. Kind of like what we were
yeah,
talking about earlier in the conversation. So laws changed, and the policies should reflect that, but also they have to rein it in, because some people get carried away and call everything sexual harassment, or they call everything bullying or whatever.
yeah. That brings to my mind, like with with homosexuality and stuff becoming more common in the workplace. That's something that, whether we like it or not, we need to be more accepting of. Because we're just going to encounter it more often, and as those laws change, how are we going to react? In the workplace.
It is still very awkward for me. We have a lot of gay people in our office, and several of them are married, and it just bothers me to no end when when a woman or my wife calls,
Oh.
and like I'm like, that's not right. That's not the term. But I just have a really hard time with that, and I can't say anything. I can't say anything to anybody at work
Uh-huh.
because that is not politically correct. So I can come home and talk to my husband about it, but I just have to keep my mouth shut, and I restrain myself from rolling my eyes, and
Yeah.
it's hard though. I mean, the culture I work in is very, very, very diverse, and that's a good thing. It's just hard because I don't agree with all their values. There are our company has maybe 400 employees, and I think I know 5 of us are LDS.
Okay.
And so, it's just a totally different culture. When we have parties like once a quarter, and they always set up a bar. Always. There's always, booze, and my option is water. They don't offer juices or anything. You get beer, you get wine, or you get water. I'm like, really? That's
They don't
stupid.
even have those cute little soda mixer can things.
No, no, they don't. I feel discriminated against.
You should take that to HR for sure.
I feel discriminated at our holiday parties that you guys provide everything for because all I get is water. I'm sure that'll go over really well.
Yeah, where I come from is really diverse too in Portland.
Oh yeah, Portland would be.
Yeah, really diverse, and I'm sure Leslie, you're from California, right?
Yeah, I live in LA, and it's pretty diverse. Like,
yeah,
we've got them all at my office. Jewish. I'm the token Mormon, and then there's we've got them all. So.
yeah. Interesting.
So that is the end of our conversation, or the end of our discussion. Does you guys have anything else to add?
I'm going to stop the broadcast then.